Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Healing Journal, where I'm sharing my healing journey in real time with you. My hat today is from where I was born, Templeton. So, little shout out to my home state, California. So, today I'm going to talk about when you feel triggered, okay? And sometimes we can feel triggered and not know why. And the easiest way to identify this is just know that when you feel triggered, that is unhealed trauma. And we all have this. Nobody is immune to this. And we have to stay alert and aware. So, one of my triggers is when people accuse me of doing something or accusing me of being a certain type of person when I know that I'm not. A lot of times, when you're in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, these people are going to say that you are what they are. Okay. And this is their tactic of controlling you. The moment you fall victim to listening to these things, it can get very confusing because if you're triggered by it, it means there's trauma there. And this trauma could be from your childhood, it could be developed in a relationship, it could be something that you maybe went through in your adult life and maybe you don't even remember. These are dangerous things because it allows us to fall victim of our feelings, right? If we don't have control of ourselves. So I would always just be super reactive when someone would say, "Hey, you're being this way." Let's say somebody sees, for example, that I'm doing videos and I'm using my calling in life, which is to be a messenger, and I am an entertainer and I am a singer songwriter and I am comfortable putting things on the internet more than just the average person. Let's just say someone calls me a con artist, right? So this has happened and I had to actually look up like what is a con artist. And what's interesting about this is a lot of times the people who call us a con artist are actually being tricked by con artists and they don't even know it. Okay? So in this instance, let's say this person is having and they're one of the flying monkeys, and they're having a conversation with the narcissist, and they are blaming. It's a triangulation situation where they're blaming and calling somebody out for the exact behavior that the narcissist is actually guilty of. This happens so much and it makes my head spin just saying it. I have to tell you, these things are not normal. And when you feel like you've gotten too much, like you feel like you're up to here and you feel really triggered, you just start to shut down. And years and years of dealing with trying to figure certain things out, you're going to feel a little crazy. If people are calling you names, sorry, there's mosquitoes in the sunlight today. I've got my homemade bug juice. But if people are starting to call you mean things, and if people are starting to lie and make things up about you, and you know that it's not correct, ignore it. I know that that sounds really simple and it's not easy to do, but ignore it because it'll ruin your peace. And I have this issue with rumination sometimes where if somebody makes fun of me, I just want to call them out and tell them to F off, right? But I've learned that, like I said in yesterday's video, if you ask them, does that make you feel good when you say that? Just sit there and look at them and wait for the answer. A lot of times you're not going to get the opportunity to ask these people this. And there are some people out there criticizing me for talking about this openly, and that's fine. We all can handle things the way that we want, but I feel triggered sometimes when people call me selfish or crazy. And I think that that's normal because I know for a fact that I care so much about so many other people that I've lost caring about myself in many moments. So when I start to do the self care and I got reprimanded for that and I got treated badly for that, that was really difficult and is really difficult. So when I had to look up what a con artist was, it was literally the person gave me narcissistic abuse. Welcome to Key West. But you have to remember in these conversations, if these people are having these conversations with these narcissists and calling you a con artist or calling you crazy, these are the flying monkeys that buy the narrative from the narcissist, okay? Now, I have done everything I possibly can to cut these types of people out of my life. And these people still put on a show. They still stalk me. They still watch everything I do. Isn't it funny how the people who despise you the most watch you the most? Isn't that kind of weird? It's very weird. So that's hint number one. I actually was so tired of seeing some of this stuff that I completely cut off my internet because that was the last kind of zone that they had to put on some kind of show. Well, now I don't have to see any of it. Okay. And sometimes you just have to pull the plug. And I found it interesting that that person was accusing me of going around and talking to people and their friends. And meanwhile, that's all they're doing is trying to play everybody against me. And what's interesting is all the people who maybe were against me or are against me, I don't need in my life apparently. So I don't really care. Don't allow it to trigger you. And I have to remind myself this constantly, right? Because you're not going to change their mind. You're not going to fix these people. You don't need these people. Lean into the people who don't trigger you, okay? Lean into the places that don't trigger you. It's okay to change your surroundings. It's okay to do something different. And what do? I like to walk. I like to walk and walk and walk. And sometimes I walk way longer than I had planned. And a lot of people have asked me, what's your walking routine? Because walking is what I've done to avoid triggers and listen to things while I'm walking that help me learn about that cognitive behavioral therapy. That's also very helpful. I like to listen to classical music. I like to listen to healing frequencies. I'm not sitting there listening to politics. I'm not listening to random entertainment. I'm always trying to listen to something that's improving me and helping me understand myself so that I'm not triggered. So those walks are really therapeutic for me. I don't necessarily have a walking program. I walk if I can after I eat, and if I can when I feel triggered, and if I can just for fun. Okay. And it's something that when I'm not walking regularly, I start to feel the rats like in my head, like the rumination I was talking about of overthinking things, feeling more triggered. I also, for my girls out there, I try to be careful around my cycle with hormones. I try to be careful to avoid any triggering environments around when I might be a little more sensitive. And I know that we can't all do this, but that is another tip that I definitely am going to give to my girls out there. I'm playing a show tonight, a pop up show. I have to make this pretty quick so I can get in the shower because I just got back from my walk. But I did take a little video for you guys today to show you where I went today and how beautiful the water was. So I'm going to put that in right now. Take a look. All right, you guys, welcome back. So I just have to show you guys this. Look at it out there. It's beautiful. Truffles already is too hot, so she's in her dome taking a rest. But walks have changed my mental health in my life, and I just want you guys to know that before I do more talking, I just want to show you that, you know, just get outside. And I know that some of you are like, yeah, probably easy for you to say because you live in Key West. But listen, once you live in one spot long enough, you start to get used to your surroundings. But again, you've got to pick places that work for you and that you love. All right? So this is just a reminder. And if you want to live by the beach, do it. It was beautiful out there today, and I actually wish that I had just brought my bathing suit and I would have taken Truffles out there with her little doggy life vest, but I had no idea. It's crazy how the water here in Key West can be beautiful one day and the next day it can be sometimes kind of choppy and murky. So another way to not feel triggered is just don't forget that breathing. Sometimes I forget to breathe. And what happens when we do feel triggered is by nature, we almost hold our breath, right? Don't hold your breath. And just remember that our thoughts that cause anxiety, we don't have to think them. The world is not as bad of a place. It's actually in our minds. Think about how much evil is out there because of what happens in the mind. So don't join them. And you have to remember that it's almost like, you know, those people that walk into the scary movie versus the people who walk into maybe the chick flick or the Disney movie, when those people exit the theater, they're all going to be in a different frame of mind because when you watch a movie, it alters your reality temporarily, right? And you know that feeling when I can't remember what the scientific word is. Maybe you could put it in the comments below if somebody knows what this is. But when you come out of the movie theater and you almost feel like your reality's been altered and everything kind of looks even a little bit different for a very small period of time, and you sort of feel altered. And this happens also like when we go on vacation and we leave our normal surroundings for a little bit and we come back and everything is a little bit more fresh. That's why I'm a firm believer. I know how healthy it is to remove yourself from your environment if you have been sort of even feeling just stuck. So don't forget this. And if you feel triggered by feeling stuck, that's unhealed trauma. That's something you need to look into. And if that means that you take a day trip somewhere that you don't normally go, even if it doesn't sound exciting, right? Even if it doesn't sound fun, do it anyway. And by that, I mean, even if it's just a walk to a certain place where you live down the street and back, and just put something in your ears or don't put anything in your ears and give yourself the chance to do something a little differently. When we choose to do these things, it rewires our brain. And neuroscience proves that this stuff helps when you're healing. So I know that there's a lot of people out there who are now following my journey because they're on a similar path. Just remember that it's these tiny little things that don't seem like they're going to make a change. Consistently doing these things will help you navigate those triggers. I used to feel so triggered when I would see other people getting bullied, and I would just want to lash out and stand up for the underdog because I would feel so badly for people that are being mistreated. I was never good at standing up for myself. And then when I did, I would snap, right? And that was because I wasn't good at making boundaries. Healthy boundaries are going to prevent future triggers because you're going to have that barrier. You're going to have that protection. And it's really important. I know because I'm in the phase right now of learning how to create boundaries. And it was kind of like I felt, especially after being in abusive relationships, it was like, okay, I was either way too friendly and okay, and too forgiving to then all of a sudden I would snap, right? And that was my imbalance. That is my burden to bear, and that is my problem to fix. And so I had to figure this out because whether it was in an abusive relationship or not, a lot of times this is how I operated with everybody in my life. And so I would give too much rope. And Jordan Peterson has said something very, very, very valuable. He says, don't say yes to things if you don't want to, because all of a sudden, as you go through friendships, relationships, and with family members, if you say yes to stuff and then all of a sudden you start to get comfortable around these people and you start to say no, you're going to look like the crazy person, right? Even though you're not, you're going to. And then these people are going to say that you're crazy because they're not used to you creating a boundary and saying no. This is why if you say no in the beginning and you stand up for what works for you, yes, it might be a little uncomfortable, especially for somebody who isn't good at respecting boundaries. And especially if these people have known you for a while without understanding that you have boundaries. The people who love you and the people who support you and the people who probably should be in your life are going to respect that boundary and go, that person's working on themselves. And they're going to be able to take a step back. But you have to remember that people have to be healthy up in their mind to be able to do this. A lot of people are not. And there's a point in time where you can only forgive that so much to the point where you're like, okay, is this healthy for me to be around or not? Is it continuing to trigger me or not? And you'll know, watch your guidance system. So when you feel triggered, go for a walk. I don't know what that was, but I'm really glad that Truffles is not out here because she would go crazy. I think it was a huge iguana. Oh, we have more people coming into Key West. Welcome to Key West, everybody. Come on in. We got a brand new airport. We do have a brand new airport. So, anyway, I'm sharing with you what has worked for me in my past based on where I made mistakes, what I needed to work on. And just remember that if you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship, my best advice is get out. But I know that the old me says, okay, but what if they change? Okay, but they do love me. And I just want to be very transparent here. I stayed because I thought that this person was going to go back to being the loving person that they were in the beginning. I also stayed because there were fun moments, but I didn't realize how shallow their version of the fun was. I thought that it was deep love. I thought that this was like my best friend. I thought that this was my soulmate, and I genuinely believed that we could work through this together. And I genuinely believed that this was a real love story and that I had hit the lottery. And it was a very slow burn into learning that the manipulation tactics and the multiple masks that this person was wearing, going from talking so badly the whole time I knew them about their family to then befriending them as soon as I had to walk away from the relationship. They also talked bad about my family the whole time I was in a relationship with them. And then they befriended my family as soon as I walked away from them. Okay. These behaviors are not normal. And anybody trying to normalize this and blame you for it has problems that they need to work through. And if it's triggering you, anybody would be triggered by something like this because it's certifiably nuts. So just take a step back, take an ice bath, go somewhere new, try a different item on the menu. I've said that one before. Wow, it's really lots of planes. So again, this is my healing journey in real time. And I felt a little bit triggered, but just remember that the more attention you give that trigger, the worse it's going to get if you're involving other people. Go pull away and say, all right, why does that trigger me? Why do I feel this way? And don't be afraid to dig deep, even if it means laying in bed at night for just a couple of minutes and have some gentle thoughts. Just remember that the last thought that you have, try to make that something that makes you feel good. Because when you go to sleep with a good thought, you're going to wake up in the morning feeling a lot better. And by doing that, you will feel less triggered. You know how sometimes when you just feel good, you're like, nothing can bother me today. Welcome to Key West. That's a little one. But these practiced routines up in your mental health field right here it's like going to the gym for your brain. We go to the gym and we go out and we walk. I don't actually go to the gym. I'm not a big fan of gyms. I never have been. I like to be outside. But whatever it is for you to get your body moving, right? If you do this consistently, a little bit every day, it makes a huge difference. And it's the same with up here in your brain. So just remember that. And you know what? Screw the haters. Don't listen to them. And not everyone's going to understand. Okay. So work through your triggers every single day. Just write them down and make a note of what they are. For me, it's when people criticize me for being something that I'm not, like a con artist. For heaven's sakes, that is insane. Okay. And when I looked up what a con artist was, I'm just saying, I had to stand back. I actually kind of laughed a little bit because it's like, my gosh, that's exactly how I felt. I was conned into believing somebody was single when they weren't. And I was conned into believing that this person really loved me and they didn't. And I was conned into believing that they needed me to build a life with them and helped save their house and brought all the financing to it just so that they could cheat on me while we were trying to have a kid and kick me out. Okay. That's a con artist. And play everybody a lie against me. That's a con artist. And it is quite unbelievable that some of my closest loved ones have chosen to believe a lie. But I have the proof. I can see it as much as I want. And don't make yourself sick trying to get all the proof. However, keep as much proof as you can if you're in an abusive relationship. Get out, file it away, and learn. And these are triggers, okay? If you are triggered by anything I just said, go within and look into that, okay? And ask yourself why. Just don't forget. The truth does not require your participation. Lies do. On that note, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.